Hey there, it's Scott with HVAC Technician Sales Secrets. I've got a really good video for you today. And I got to give a shout out to my good friend and mentor, Dr. Kevin Hogan. Kevin Hogan's written 27 books about influence and persuasion. And him and I have chatted quite a bit about using some of the technology in his programs, how they've influenced me over time and helped me build content for you to have better conversations with your buyers, to close more sales where appropriate. And so shout out to Dr. Kevin Hogan, awesome dude, kevinhogan.com. So when you take the time to go through your sales process, you build out a checklist, you're about to meet with your buyer, they've called you for a diagnostic, they've called you for a maintenance or for a tune-up, or they're just, what's the state of my equipment? I want you to do an investigation before I buy this property. I want to give you some elements of a conversation that's going to help you be better with the interactions that you have and have better influence over the people that you meet with. And so I want to introduce you to something. You don't explain good information and bad information in the same spot. Now, I know a lot of trainers in this industry will tell you to get to the kitchen table, okay? So if you want somebody to get rid of something and push it away and say, I don't want this thing anymore, you're better off to have them do that away from the kitchen table, okay? So I'm gonna give you an example that has nothing to do with heating and air. You've probably been in a relationship where you were fighting with your significant other, you were fighting with a brother or sister, you're fighting with a friend, you were fighting with somebody, and you go into the room like an hour later and it's still tense, okay? There's still like a feeling of pressure there. There's still a feeling of issues there. There's still a feeling like, oh, this is ooky. You want to explain damage at the air conditioner, at the furnace, or near the equipment, because that is also where your area of genius lies, okay? So if you've watched the videos and I've talked about checklists, one of the greatest things that you could do is you could go grab your homeowner and let them know this in your door approach. There's gonna be a point where I need to have you have a conversation with me. You're gonna go grab them and say, hey, I've got a couple things to go over with you. And you just bring them outside of the equipment. You bring them outside to the ladder by the roof, okay? And you start the conversation like, hey, here's what got us out here today, and I wanna go over with you all the facts and figures and information of what we're doing. And what you're doing is you're leaving all of those bad feelings at the equipment. You're leaving all those bad feelings away from the kitchen table or away from the kitchen counter or away from the living room or away from the dining room, where you're going to have a good conversation, where you're going to have a solution. So outside, bad feelings. Inside, good feelings. Super important. This is a way of priming information. This is a way of anchoring, okay? So like if you study psychological processes, anchoring is where I might say like, hey, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I give you the anchor sign. Or I go outside and say, hey, like this system's got a lot of issues, there's a lot of problems, let's figure out what we're gonna do from here. So you have to set the scene if you're gonna explain that damage. You're gonna have to set that scene and be ready for the conversation. Now, here's the thing. If you go to HVACTechSecrets.com, I'm gonna put it on the screen like right here, HVACTechSecrets.com, and sign up for the email list. Here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get training that I'm not gonna put out on YouTube, and there'll be a link in there for a Facebook group. Go to the Facebook group, okay? You got this, you're gonna be okay. So you have to prepare what's going on that outside scene. If I was sent to a diagnostic, this is my personal preference. I knew that most people did not clean their heat pump or their air conditioner. And so it would give a false reading. It would give a false sense of security. So I would, even though the company I work for would charge for it, I would still do it. I would go to the call, I would clean the outdoor coil. And so the homeowner would come out and go, what are you doing? I'm cleaning the outdoor coil because this is the proper way for me to do an investigation and make sure that your system's working the way that it should. It also tells me if there's a leak, if you have high head pressure. It tells me that there's a lot of things going on. And it gave me the opportunity to have a conversation about partnership plans and club memberships and why they were so important. So like, there's a lot of things that you can do inside of your sales process that relate to the conversation. I had so many people go to me like, I never knew that I was supposed to get my system maintained. I would show them how dirty it was. I would take the hose and I would put my cleaner on the outdoor coil and say like, look, here's all the dirt that's coming out of here. You're paying extra to the utility company. They're not sending you a thank you card at the end of the month. They're sending you a nasty gram saying you use more energy than the neighbors. So you have the ability to go through a process and take people and say like, here's what it's gonna be from start to finish. And if you're explaining the damage at the equipment, remember, you're the expert, right? So Superman has a cape, he's Superman. A judge has a robe, he's a judge. A police officer or a sheriff has a badge, they're a badge. People know that you are a technician based upon your tools being next to the air conditioner, and that's what you do. Okay? You want all the bad feelings at the air conditioner. You want all the good feelings at the table while you're having a conversation. Leave the bad over there, bring the good over here. Okay? And if you're using a checklist, you can go through and say, like, hey, here's what you need to know. I went through, I checked your FLA, checked your RLA. There's some vital stats that are on the side of the equipment that tells me how the equipment should and shouldn't operate. And I want to go over those things with you right now, right? Because I want those bad feelings out here at the air conditioner, at the table. I want them to be like, that system out there, I don't like it anymore. I don't want them to have the conversations and the bad feelings at the table. I want to be the solution for them, okay? So get used to this. Explain good news and bad news in two separate spots. So if you're like, hey, Scott, well, there's a furnace up in the attic. How do I do that? Well, you bring them to the ladder and you explain the damage at the ladder. Scott, there's a piece of equipment up on the roof. How do I get them engaged? You bring them outside and you have that talk. And you're like, Scott, why would I do that? Well, you know, if you got somebody who's retired and they'd rather watch Jeopardy reruns, or they'd rather watch, Wheel of Fortune reruns, or they would rather watch Gunsmoke reruns than listen to you, you are containing the information. It's your job to make your information important. Just like it's my job, my role and responsibility to make my information important. And if you are able to say, hey, look, I need you for 3 minutes to come outside with me to go over what's going on. You live here, I don't. Just stop talking, get them to come out. You don't explain good news and bad news at the same spot. This will really help you with partnership plans, club memberships, parts and pieces where appropriate, new systems if that's time and that's what they decide to do. So just realize that between having good news and bad news in one spot and having a checklist, you are able to communicate better, have better conversations, and help your clients better. There you go. Go to hvactechsecrets.com, sign up for the email. Name, email address, phone number, extra training, and the Facebook group. We'll see you soon. Thanks for dropping by.